Is it happening? Are we live?
I think we're live again. We're live again. Technology, my friend. Go figure. Oh, we want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you happen to be listening on the podcast, if you're listening on a replay or you're watching this, thank you so much for joining us. We're just getting started today. Brian showed a little bit of his gator head there as we get ready for college football to officially kick off the dun 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 dun. If this is a sports talk show, we'd be talking about how the Georgia quarterback has decided not to play this year, and that means Florida will do very well this year. That's what I'm hoping for. So, how you doing tonight? How are things in Colorado before we even get started, buddy?
Oh man, it's beautiful over here. We just got the first little hint of fall weather. Are you jealous? You want to come by?
Yeah. I'm always jealous when it comes to fall weather because, yeah, without a doubt, we don't have that in Alabama. We're still at 90 degrees right now with a heat index of 96. So still a little bit rough. But yeah, fall's my favorite time of the. Oh, what happened to you? He's gone. Brian's gone. Well, in that case, let's go ahead and start the show. Let me pull up the opening video. Let's get going. Here we go.
With Pete and Brian.
It was funny, buddy. I totally just started without you.
Did you see me accidentally leave?
Brian Vaghi. Yeah, where'd you go? Is it a streaming problem? Because like I said, I've got my Ethernet cable hooked up today. So what do you got?
It was a problem of I went to move the window on my computer and instead hit the back button. So I went back to my startup page and came right out of the show.
That's where touchscreen videos can really, really come back to haunt you. So thank you all for joining us today. This is episode 21 of Leadership and Laughs with Pete and Brian. As a reminder, this is the funnest hour of your week. We're declaring it so. We are not going to talk about politics. We're not going to talk about anybody running for president. We're not going to talk about too much in the social justice arena. We're not going to talk about wildfires. We're not going to talk about hurricanes, and those things are important, my friend. Oh, you're right. We are touching on fires. Let me stand corrected. And don't get me wrong, those things are important. We need to cover those items. We need to be well aware and well versed on what's going on. But Brian and I just want to take an hour of your week to have some fun. We both worked at Disney, so we talk about Disney towards the end. We play some game shows, and we just Brian and I just want to get focused on leadership and how you, whether you're a manager, supervisor, or individual contributor, Brian, could go ahead and be a little more successful in your role. So if you're watching us on LinkedIn Live, we appreciate you. If you're watching on Facebook, we appreciate you. And if you happen to be listening to the podcast on a streaming day after, a week after, we're happy to have you as well.
Now, how can they chime in and interact with the show?
Yeah, we want you to leave your comments. This is very interactive. So whenever you comment on LinkedIn Live or on Facebook, those comments will pop up for us. We can read them. We can follow. As we play the game show, Brian, they can play along by just typing in there. So real quick, if you're watching right now and you want to type into your comment box and just tell us where you're listening from, give us the city, maybe the state of where you're watching us from, so we can just say hello to you and be excited that you're just part of the show. So as you guys are doing that, we'll get started. Brian starts us off with what are called the first fruits, if you will, Brian. These are the first three stories every single week, and we call it Leading Off with Brian. And because we call it Leading Off with Brian, we have your own music and your own graphic there. Look at that.
Look at that. That looks expensive.
Yeah. What did Terry say last week that it looked like Monty Python's Life of Brian?
Yeah, the Life of Brian.
Life of Brian. So, all right, buddy, go ahead and get us started. We're so happy. Jennifer's joining us from Birmingham. Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate you being part of our show tonight. Go ahead, Brian. Get started, buddy.
All right. Well, thanks, Pete. Go ahead and throw up that first picture. I want everybody to meet Kareth.
What picture?
Uh,
What? What?
you know that picture?
Huh?
Huh?
Huh? What?
Oh,
Is that it?
there she is. This is
Yes.
Kareth is a 2-year-old certified crisis response therapy dog. You know, it's been a harrowing week of news, and like Pete said at the top of the show, we're not going to talk about any of those things, except we are going to talk about the wildfires. So Kareth is a certified crisis response therapy dog who is spreading love to firefighters as they take on that big what they're calling the Woodward fire in Marin County in California. And seeing little Kareth's smiling little golden retriever face, that's not just, you know, an instant happiness boost, but, you know, therapy dogs like Kareth can help these heroes stay emotionally strong as they power through what is, of course, you know, a stressful and dangerous job. So,
no doubt.
Yeah, when the firefighters, when they know that Kareth is scheduled for a visit, they get all excited and they look forward to seeing her at the end of their shift. And her handler, his name is Heidi, says she makes people feel loved and special and important. And one firefighter even said that Kareth has the uncanny ability to make him feel like he's the most important person in the world. Oh, and Kareth has an Instagram as well, so you can.
That's so awesome.
You can find Kareth. She describes herself as a therapy dog and a trail runner and a beach explorer.
See, that's the thing. And that's, first of all, these people are putting their lives on the line every day. And so it's important that they get the mental stimulation, whatever that they need. And animals, buddy, I know you're an animal person. Come here, girl. Come here. I got my dog in the room with me. She's staring at me right now. If you are listening and not watching, just imagine a beautiful golden retriever going up to firefighters and being a part of their day and sort of motivating and inspiring them. So come here, girl. Get up here. Come on. I'll tell you, dogs, man, look at that. Dogs are just, look at that. It's a good looking puppy there. So great story, man. Now, our other fire departments, our other police people, I know I see a lot of dogs like this used in hospitals and things like that. You know, those are just great stories.
Yeah, it's a thing. And in fact, I believe when you were at the National Speakers Conference, didn't you you did a Pete's Points remote from Therapy Dog booth?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it was. There's this organization that what they'll do is, this is pre-pandemic, of course, but at a conference, they know that you're sitting in sessions all day and you're kind of, you know, getting around. And so what they'll do is they'll come to the exhibit hall and bring 4, 5, or 6 of these dogs that are therapy dogs for you to interact with, but also to kind of market and sell. Hey, this is what's happening in your area. These dogs are great. They help with all these things. So it's a nice break for you for the day as a conference participant, but you also learn about the power of these therapy dogs. And I'll throw the picture up one more time, man. That just looks like it's something that I can't imagine the hour these men and women are putting in out there fighting these fires. So a little bit of puppy love goes a long way, buddy.
It's about creating happiness.
Got one person watching, says, looks like my yellow lab. They're always happy. Yep. Golden retrievers, labs. They are just great dogs. All right, buddy. Let me pull this picture down. Let's get into story number 2. What do you got?
All right. Next story is Missouri art teacher Misty Bird is made of some real strong stuff, and she's incredibly kind and creates happiness as well. When she learned that the mother of one of her students needed a new kidney, she said she didn't even think about it. She just simply picked up the phone and offered hers. So, yep, there's Misty on the left. She's in her 8th year of teaching at Wilder Elementary in Mansfield, Missouri. And
God bless her. We need more teachers.
For sure. And she's had Fisher Crony in her little boy in her class every year since he was in kindergarten. And you know, she got to know him and got to know the family, and he kind of stood out to her because he would always help in her classroom anytime he had free time after recess. And you know, the teacher said that she knew the boy's mother, Shannon Croney, as an acquaintance who would occasionally cut her son's hair. They would talk together at boys' baseball games and whatnot. And then she heard that that Mrs. Croney was having some health problems, but she didn't know what the issue was until she saw a Facebook post, and it was from the little boy's grandmother trying to find, trying to help her daughter find a kidney. So she said, "Hey, listen, she's O negative, I'm O negative," and she said, "I didn't really even think about it. I just called the kidney coordinator, and we went from there." So here we are.
I mean, certain people are blessed with that gift, Brian. I mean, I help my son through Little League. I volunteered at parent events. My wife's always involved. And if we heard that someone we knew needed a kidney, we would say something like, "Oh, we'll be praying for you," or, "Oh, we'll keep our eyes open for you." Like, the first thing to cross my mind is not, "Let me see if I can give you mine," So that's just amazing.
It's a giant, like you said, it's a gift, but she didn't even think twice about it. And the transfer, the transplant was successful, and now the two women have actually grown to develop a close friendship. And the final punchline is that they've now teamed up, and they are together looking for a kidney for a local father who's also waiting on the transplant.
Wow. My buddy Barry is listening. He's married to a teacher, and he's like, teachers are givers. That's just part of their nature, taking care of people, helping them. So, that's a good story.
All my parents are teachers, and that's part of why I went into, the corporate side of it, but teaching.
Yeah, sure. Corporate learning. Yeah.
They are givers, and, they don't do it for the money.
No. Yes, yes, indeed. All right, let's see. But before we bring up your last story, let's get you a little more, just like one more time. Whenever I hear like your theme song here, it fires me up, buddy. It just makes me like, yes, yeah. Leading off with Brian, he's got one more. All right, buddy.
One more. So we're going to take a field trip, Pete, over to the Happiness Museum. Did you know?
No way.
Did you know there's a museum that's dedicated solely to happiness?
How ironic. Our theme for the whole show tonight is happiness. Who would have known? Tell me about this, Brian.
All right. Well, this is the world's first museum that is dedicated explicitly to, happiness, which is what the article defined as that warm, glowing, and sometimes recently hard to find feeling. And it opened this summer in Copenhagen, Denmark. It's the creation of the Happiness Research Institute, which is a think tank which studies happiness and encourages global leaders to adopt policies with well-being in mind. It's something we can all just use a little bit more of. Visitors to the museum get to view artifacts of joy from around the world and learn more about the historical perception of happiness, and leave notes detailing their own sources of happiness, which you can see right now if you're watching us on LinkedIn or Facebook Live. And
if you're listening, we're looking at a wall of yellow sticky notes with what people wrote down, and I truly believe that one of those, Brian, says the word sex next to it. Am I off on that? Do you see the one just to the right of the frame photo?
Well, it does. Well, hey, it's whatever brings you happy.
I just probably should have vetted that photo a little more. All righty.
I think go sex. Go sex. Yeah. Well, it is Denmark. It's entirely
yeah. That's why they're the happiest country in the world, right?
Happy. But they also, at the museum, they run across they run a few experiments throughout the day, and one caught my eye. It's they leave a wallet full of money, which is deliberately placed on the ground, and the museum's creators talk about how trust is a key contributor to happiness levels. And so far, the museum says that the wallet has been returned intact every single time.
Wow. And yeah, wouldn't you be that jerk of a guy who's like, I'm here for the happiness museum. Just found $100. Now I'm really happy. now I'm really happy. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Our buddy Todd's listening tonight, watching in. He agrees with happiness. So yeah. So happiness through therapy dogs, happiness through giving kidneys and just being a giver, and just happiness through understanding that happiness is what we all need. And again, as leaders, Brian, as we tie this back to our topic tonight, man, do you know any leaders who are just never happy? Everything's wrong. We don't get paid enough, and they're cutting our salaries, and there's furloughs going on, and they don't give us enough for they're never happy. And you can see that sort of work through the entire organization, and the culture just sort of dies. So hopefully you don't have anybody like that where you work, but have you ever worked with somebody who's just never happy?
Yeah, I have. I mean, and I'm not going to name any names, but with my career, and it's funny, we talk about those people still, and people who are just kind of always a downer, always grumpy, and
well done.
Yeah,
always grumpy, never happy. I mean, there's a dwarf named Happy. It's got to be a good thing.
Grumpy.
Yeah. Well, that's Brian leading off. I guess it's time for me to take over with our leadership article of the week.
It's like breaking news.
Breaking news. This just in. We've got a Leadership and Laughs article of the week. So what we do is we pick an article because we're too lazy to write this stuff. We'll pick an article from a leadership expert or somebody in the industry, and we will comment and share their information. And hopefully when it gets out there, they'll comment and follow us. And then we just make a gigantic, big, global world that loves this podcast, this live stream. And of course, we send out the complimentary Leadership and Laughs t-shirt as an inspiration for them. So tonight, what?
Hold on.
Sit. What? Who's on the phone?
T-shirts.
What?
Oh,
T-shirts are.
I'm being told that they're delayed.
Okay. At what time will that joke get old? 5 more episodes?
Not for me.
Yeah, I don't know. All right. Gentleman's name is, and I got a picture of him. If you can't see him because you're listening, it's okay. His name is Tomas Chamorro-Premuzic. How about that? Let's pull that up real quick, buddy. There he is. He wrote a book by Harvard Business Review called Why Do So Many Incompetent Men Become Leaders and How to Fix It? Why do so many incompetent men become leaders? Brian, we resemble that remark. So he basically has written this article that was in Fast Company magazine just recently about the 4 major long-term psychological effects of remote work, of continued remote work. What's that face, Brian? Is this foreshadowing? Are you foreshadowing something?
It turns out that happens to be very close to our game of over-under, which we'll be playing later on.
Wow. So over-under is also about the long-term psychological effects of remote work of some particular.
Right here on Leadership and Laughs.
Wow.
Who's your daddy?
I don't know. So let's talk about this. Couple things from him. All right. Brian, you are a remote worker. You've been working remotely quite a long time. A lot of my friends have been remote workers, but a lot of people like myself and people I know, we're not used to this. We're since March 13th, I'm coming up on 6 months, buddy, of working remotely. And I got to tell you, I'm finally getting in the swing of it. But if you were to ask me point blank, do you want to go back to the office? My answer is yes. And there's all kinds of reasons for that. And some of them may tie into what he talks about in his article. So he says that although scientific research has highlighted the benefits of remote working, boost your employee morale, your health goes up, your well-being goes up. That was before the pandemic.
Yeah.
That was before the pandemic because people chose to work remote or they found a right fit job that was allowed to be remote. What we're doing now is there's no choice. And a lot of people are saying you have to work remotely. So they may not have been in that sort of mindset that they wanted to work remotely. So he tells us that there are 4 things that might tie into this. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the other part to it is not only are they not choosing it, but in the before times, before the pandemic, a lot of our kids were going to school while we were working
Yep.
home, working remotely, and
Yes.
not in the next room on Zoom calls and coming in to ask for chicken nuggets.
And also affecting your bandwidth on your Wi-Fi at home as well. So here's his 4 things. You're right. And we're going to cover some of that. Number 1 is loneliness. He says social isolation is a real problem. He says when organizations don't put the right support networks in and foster that culture of virtual collaboration, many employees are just going to feel lonely. And to make matters worse, we're not training our managers on how to manage virtually. We're just making everybody go be virtual. And so what's happening, people are getting Zoom calls aren't replacing that. So he's saying that the amount of loneliness is going up. Do you agree or disagree with that? Do you feel lonely at work? I mean, at home working remotely? You don't, probably, because you've always been working.
I don't personally, because I have a leader who's very good at managing remotely. I mean, that's just been the nature of our team's dynamic for years.
Right.
Now. We're all in different states. We do get together quite often, as a team on a conference call or whatever. But so for me personally, no, I have not felt extra loneliness, but I can imagine. Let me say this. You know what I really miss about working in an office?
Talk to me.
The people. I miss.
Right.
I miss the office interactions. I miss going, to the HR office and saying, hey, like, we're going to lunch today. What's happening? And they're like, Brian, it's 9:00.
Yep.
And or seeing a certain coworker of mine, Pete Blank, who come around the corner with water guns.
I would never do that. Instead, I would do what our friend Russ Rothermer says, which is play a game of Vista Ball, which will create happiness, which is where you're in a small office, and I believe you randomly throw tennis balls at each other or something. Let's not even go into that.
Koosh balls.
But boy, those were.
I can.
But again, you're exactly right. If you're used to it remotely, loneliness won't be there. But if you're not used to that, and even for someone like you remotely, the human interaction is very, very important. Yes. Once we get into college football season, the orange and blue polo will come out, my friend. So thank you. Number 2, Brian. Oh, doggone it, Brian. I made graphics. Oh, that's not it. All right. Well, we'll skip that one. All right. Let's go on to number 2, which is an old Mel Brooks movie, if you will. High anxiety. Anxiety is number 2. Brian, I'm going to put you on the spot here because I know that you don't know this. VUCA. Have you heard all the terms about a VUCA world and a VUCA mindset and VUCA this and VUCA that? Thank you. Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguity. We're talking about this whole VUCA world because we have to be more agile. And here's what he says. He says most humans are pre-wired, even though we think that we want to be clever and forward-thinking and adaptable and embrace uncertainty. We're pre-wired to be boredom, to have a habitat for boredom and predictability. So he says when we're unable to plan, we experience discomfort and helplessness. Now, what that means is that remote working alone is not as problematic as doing it for an indefinite amount of time. And I'll buy into that. Everybody was fine going remote at first. But everybody keeps going, when are we going back? We don't know. We don't know. Maybe soon. We don't know. Maybe October, maybe November. We don't know. And now we're getting anxious about things like, should I buy a boat? Should I sell my house? Should I help my kids with my homework? Should my kids be involved with, online or half or hybrid or whatever it may be? And again, something else I think about from an anxious point of view, what if you were up for a promotion before COVID hit? What if you were up and you were really making inroads in the organization? People are like, man, you're a really good high performer. Well, now you're virtual. People aren't seeing. I mean, they might see it, but they might not. And so, I don't know. People are getting anxious, and he said that can be one of the downsides of working remotely as well.
How do you spell?
Again, if you've got comments on this, y'all feel free to say. Go ahead, Brian.
How do you spell VUCA?
VUCA, my friend. Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguity. Barry brings up a good point. He says, no matter how good you are at Zoom, no matter how good you are, nothing will take the place of face to face. You just can't. You can't read body language. You can't read tone of voice. You don't have that human touch. That's how we're wired, man. So I think that there's anxious. Now, you might think, my buddy Brian, you might think that this next one he mentions is the same. He says stress. And some people go, well, hold on a second. You just said anxiety and stress are probably the same thing. But they're not. Anxiety is kind of an internal thing. You're feeling anxious. Stress is, again, almost what you put out there when people can say, man, you look stressed, or man, you are stressed. According to the author, the single best predictor of how well people are coping with remote work is whether they were working remotely before. That's you, Brian. There's a big difference between people who opted for remote work prior to the crisis and the life is going on versus those who were forced to switch. There's also been a significant divide in the people's ability to adapt to remote work based on whether or not they have children or not. Who said that? Give yourself a bell, Brian. Yes, I will give you one as well. That's not as exciting as yours, I know. What? There's a bell. So think about that. People are feeling anxious, but if I've got kids at home, like you said, there's an incredible amount of stress going on as well. And the last one, which is no surprise, we've already mentioned it, is face-to-face. He says that it is not possible to erase our evolutionary bandwagon and replace millions of years of in-person interaction with technologically mediated or virtual communications. So while Zoom is helping us have the connection through technology, it can't replicate real life experiences. So again, according to the author, Brian, we are getting more lonely. We're feeling more anxious. We are getting stressed. And a lot of us are saying about everything, I miss face-to-face. Your take, sir.
I do miss face-to-face. And, like Barry said, in person is always better than virtual. You can't always get just from what you're seeing here. You see this sheet behind me. You don't know what's behind the sheet. I may or may not be.
There may or may not be some. I had to stop. Okay, so let me play a quick over/under with you, buddy. Because it says in this article, remote work does have its advantages, which is why as many as blank % of the workforce adopted remote work prior to the pandemic. Brian, if I said what percentage of workers or what percentage of companies adopted remote work before the current pandemic, is it higher or lower than 30%?
Lower.
It's actually higher, my buddy. That's why you lead and I play the game. 37% of the workforce has already embraced remote work and was doing it before the pandemic.
Really, I'm surprised.
Yeah. So anyhow, remote is good. We're going to keep doing it. But if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling anxious, you are not alone by any stretch of the imagination. Real quick, can you help out our buddy Todd?
No.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you all. Man, how long have we been going, Brian? About 28 minutes now. So people have been hanging on as long as they can. You know what time it is, buddy.
Oh, what time is it?
Yeah. It is time for everybody's favorite leadership statistics game show, Over and Under. Let's go. It's what everybody signs up for, Brian. They sit through the stuff to get to Over and Under. They love the prizes. They love the energy. They feel good about it. They go to work on Thursday morning. Their bosses yell at them and they go, did you win it Over and Under last night? Because if they didn't, it makes life better. It makes life better, buddy. So get us started.
All right. So real quick, what's behind the sheet is just random office-y things that okay, so over under works like this. I'll be presenting Pete and our audience with interesting and timely statistics that somehow connect to leadership or our corporate lives, and he's going to have to decide, and you can play along, if the actual number is over or under the number that I give him. So he's hearing all of these for the first time.
First time.
We encourage you to play along. Go ahead and chat in your guesses as we play over and under.
Let's go.
Interesting. I'll tell you a real quick funny story. I walked into my daughter's bedroom this morning to say good morning. She'd already started online school, and she was staring at her computer and completely silent. She was going.
She was raising the hands. Did you not know she had earpods in or something?
And I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, Dad. It's apparently the French teacher had asked everybody, if you're ready to start class, give me a sign. It's a good knock on wood if you're with me.
But I appreciate that. I love teachers because, again, a lot of these high school, elementary, middle school teachers have not been trained or prepared for this virtual. So those that are jumping in and trying some things for the interactivity and engagement, big ups to them, buddy. That's fantastic. All right, let's go. Over or under.
So, like you said earlier, when quarantines and stay-at-home orders kind of swept across the country and across the world back in March, many workers thought that they'd be back in the office in a few weeks or a couple of months tops, right?
Right.
And, but as COVID-19 continued to surge and not really go away, employers revisited their policies, and some have now made the call to continue virtual work into 2021 and surely beyond.
Okay.
So, we've already kind of talked about this a little bit. On the one hand, some workers are adapting and really do like working from home. And on the other hand, many workers are logging extra hours, juggling additional childcare responsibilities, and the stress of this global pandemic as well. And it really all just kind of works together like a perfect storm for burnout.
Absolutely.
So a company called Flex Jobs partnered with Mental Health America to conduct a survey of more than 1,500 work-from-home employees.
You have your teensy little jobs. We have flex jobs. We will now flex our jobs. Watch me flex my jobs. Sorry.
Anyway.
Nobody watches SNL anymore. They watch the classics.
That's from like when we were in high school.
I know.
A while ago.
Your teensy jobs are no match for my big flexy jobs.
So the survey went out, and they surveyed work from home employees just to find out how people are getting along mentally during these unprecedented times. So,
okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. Bring it, my friend.
Here we go. And everybody chat in your answers. Tell me what you think. What percentage of respondents indicated that they have experienced burnout at work? What percentage of respondents indicated they have experienced burnout at work? Over or under 66%?
I was already going to go over. Is there any chance that you can tell me that this survey was done post-COVID? There was
no post-COVID, but yes, this survey was done like they announced this survey was done during COVID.
During COVID, okay.
Yeah, that's kind of the whole point of the survey, is they wanted to know how people are dealing with this new work from home reality, and how stress and their mental health is being affected.
So how many people are experiencing burnout during this time? You say, is it over or under 66%? My good buddy here, Scott, is going with the over.
I'm not talking about everybody's feeling stress. I'm talking about
burnout.
Work burnout. Like
work burnout.
Yeah, they're done. They're toast.
Okay, I'm definitely taking the over. Anybody else playing along? Anybody else typing in your over or under in the comments? If you're in your car, you're driving along, just shout at the person sitting next to you, over or under, or roll your window down to the person next to you. Just shout, over or under.
Over.
Let them know.
Under, over.
All right, I'm going to go. We have clearance, Clarence. Roger, Roger. What's our vector? Victor? I'm going to go with the over, Brian. What do we got?
It's over, of course, yeah. It did surprise me a little bit that it was this high. It's 75%. And the reason I'm surprised, again, this isn't like, I mean, everybody's, you know, everybody who still has a job is super busy, right? But so there's some level of stress in all of our lives, but we're talking about like work burnout. 75% said they have experienced burnout at work, and 40% said they've experienced burnout specifically because of the pandemic.
Oh, absolutely. And we're going to see this sort of like snowball effect, Brian, which rolling down the hill, and what's happening between schooling and the economy and the pandemic and small businesses and all this stuff. And so does that mean that I work harder and then I've got to do and so it's rolling down this hill. So again, burnout coming quickly, 75%, to me, not surprising. So good one. All right, let's go to the next one.
Now, what percentage of these people said that they were able to have open and productive conversations with human resources about solutions to their burnout?
As a human resources professional, my friend, the answer is 100%. We are always there for the employees. We put the human in human resources.
All right.
Thank you. Trademark.
So
go ahead.
Since you're already at 100%, I'll go ahead and put the over under at 33%. How many people said that they were actually able to have open and productive conversations with HR about solutions to their work burnout?
At the risk,
33%.
Yeah. At the risk of throwing my profession under the bus, I'm going to go under. I think that, especially if it's a strategic HR department, they're so focused on other aspects of the business. They're probably being pulled in multiple different directions, whether it's helping out with payroll issues or people taking leave or what's happening with our business and who needs to be let go and how do we furlough people and how do we keep this going. That the idea of an employee coming to them and saying, I'm burnt out, can you help? And them saying, I have time, I would be surprised. So again, I'm going to take the under. I believe we got a few people playing along. I think my smoking hot wife is taking the under. I believe my buddy Scott's taking the under. What do you got?
You're right, of course. The answer is under 21%. Yeah. So despite the increased hours and the increased stress, just 21%, that's 1 in 5, said that they're actually able to have productive conversations with HR about solutions to their burnout. And 56% went so far as to say that their HR departments specifically do not encourage conversations about burnout. More than half, like we don't want to hear it.
Why is the laughs part in leadership and laughs coming when we're talking about how HR is failing? Why is that? You know, 56% of HR professionals are saying, "Hey, real quick, let's not talk."
I'll tell you my take, and I'm curious to bounce it off of you. Yeah. You know, also as a long time, spent a lot of my career reporting up through HR, and my take is they're also burnt out. You know what I mean? They're stressed.
Well said.
And like you said, you know, we don't have time for that.
Do we have enough, dude? Well, we may not have enough to give. So, all right, let's go ahead. I forgot to put our little ticker up there. So the ticker is now up. So that's why we weren't getting a lot of playing. The ticker, people are like, oh, didn't know. Hey, number 3, man. After this short timeout for a water beverage break, Brian's going to bring us the third over and under. What do you got?
All right. So prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, 5% of employees said their mental health was poor or very poor.
Give yourself a bell. What was that?
Text coming in, and as I took a drink of my water, I had like a cat hair or something in there. I can talk with that. All right. So 5% of employees said their mental health was poor or very poor prior to the pandemic. What percentage now say they are struggling with mental health issues? Is it over or under 10%? I'll double it from previous.
Pre-COVID, it was 5%. Mental health still has this stigma, especially in the workplace, that people think that if they say they're feeling sad or feeling depressed or feeling anxious or feelings or whatever it may be, they don't want to bring it up. So the fact that you even got it to 10% means that people are probably starting to admit it. But because of COVID, I think that it's become more okay to open up to this. So I'm going to say it's higher. I'm going to say it's higher than 10%. Let's see if anybody else is playing along, Brian. Interesting. We have split it. Some are saying over. Some are saying it's still under. Nope. Over. Wait. Which one? Hold on. Wait. Someone changed their mind.
Under, over.
I'm going to go with the over 10%.
Yeah, it is over 10%. The answer is 18%. So if you think that prior to the pandemic, only 5% of employees said their mental health was poor or very poor, now that number has more than tripled. So 18% of employees, that's almost 1 in 5 people at your workplace who are saying that they're really struggling with their mental health right now.
So what's our leadership lesson from all these today, buddy?
Yes. Gotta, keep in touch with your employees to find out how they're doing. Do a check once in a while.
Especially like you said, people who have kids in multiple schools. Some are online, some are hybrid, some aren't used to working from home. And so this idea of just HR may or may not be there to help you. So I think as leaders, again, we need to be very cognizant of this. And I'll tell you a real quick story. We were talking when this first started back in May or June where I work about output. And, the whole fear of people working remotely, Brian, is work's not going to get done and people are going to be goofing off and I can't micromanage. I can't see what you're doing every second of every day. And so I, of course, getting away from my P in my Myers-Briggs and leaning toward the J that I love so much is like, how are we going to track this? People are working from home. How do we do outputs, all this stuff? And both of my leaders said, hold on a second, you need to rein that in. There's a lot going on right now in people's lives, a lot. And while, yes, outputs are important and deliverables are important, we can't be losing anybody during this time. And I think where they were going was we can't be, people are getting stressed and anxious and they're doing stuff with kids. And so, yeah, we all need to be aware of that. So good one today, buddy. Really good.
I appreciate that. And I think you've hit the nail on the head with getting closer to your J. I don't have too much J in my Myers-Briggs, but, I think the perception has always been that, employees who work from home are, goofing off. And
exactly.
But,
exactly. That's the perception.
Evidence has shown productivity has actually gone up and workers are getting stressed because they're putting in more hours, more time.
Oh, as a worker at home, and I'm sure people who want to comment can say, we talked about some studies last week that said, people are spending an average of 48 more minutes doing work now that they're all working remotely, a lot of people, because again, that computer is right there. They can respond up to 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. Meetings maybe taking longer. We don't know because technology and Zoom. And so the work is the work. I have a whole new respect. I don't call anybody out who's now working remotely because I know they're working because it's right there. It's in front of you. It's constant. Oh my word. What is this? What is this funky music I hear, buddy?
I love this music. It makes me happy. Our theme today is happiness, right?
Nothing makes you happier than talking about Disney and Disney leadership strategy.
Well, Disney's mission is to create happiness, right?
Oh, well done.
We create happiness.
The picture of us cracks me up. We were so young there. All right, everybody. This is our last segment of the show. It's called the Daily Disney. And what we do is we spend a little bit of time talking about stuff that will impact our lives. Some things that Disney taught us. Sometimes we show you a video clip. Sometimes we do Disney quotes. We might talk about Disney leadership strategies. We might bring on a guest who worked at Disney. All these things we might do. Again, Disney's not perfect. We know that no organization is, but the leadership lessons and strategies we learn there around employee engagement, customer service, and business processes definitely have helped make Brian and I better leaders and helped us understand the role of management and supervision. So here's what we're going to do, Brian. This is going to make a lot of people who are watching happy. I'm going to the archives, my friend, and I'm not even sure you have a copy of this.
Oh,
so as I was thinking about our theme of happiness, because of your earlier stories about being happy and how my article was about, people are being stressed. We need to get more happiness in our lives. I'm like, what made me happy at Disney? And it was teaching traditions. Traditions was our new hire orientation program. And basically, for those who don't know, Disney at the time, it was 2.5 days. It morphed back to 1.5 days. Then it became a 1 day. Now I think it's back to 1.5 or 2. But the whole point of traditions was that brand new employees, no matter if you were salaried or hourly or in the parks or backstage or wherever you were, all came to the Disney University for this training class, and people felt good. They got their name tag. They learned about Disney heritage, just fond memories of traditions, right, buddy? It was a good first day, wasn't it?
It was a great first day, and we got to create that happiness for so many people. That's how we met.
That's how we met.
Because of traditions.
Was it traditions? So I have gone into the archives and I found what we called the closing video called "I've Got Magic."
Yes.
And this was a video that we would show at the end of the traditions program. So this is back in the mid 90s, because what we wanted to do is send people out on a high, send them out on a way to go, you can do it type of thing. So what I wanted to do today is show this closing video, which they don't show anymore, and let you all take a look at it. And again, just imagine that you've sat through 2 days of Disney training, us telling you how important you are to the organization. And this is going to be the closing video. What's that?
Us.
I couldn't hear you. What'd you say?
That's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. So this is the closing video that we would show to give everybody that sense of pixie dust, if you will, on their way out of the final days of kind of orientation. So if you want to take notes about things that jump out at you, Brian, things that you remember about this video, things that are no longer timely, because this is over 20 years old. Also, if you happen to be listening to the podcast and not watching the live stream, keep in mind that you can't see the video, so just enjoy the fantastic song that's in the background. So here we go, Brian. This is going to bring us happiness. This is "I've Got Magic."
Is it true the magic touch is more than flash and pixie dust?
Could this be my chance to shine? Is this the place?
Is now the time?
I've got magic up my sleeve. I've got a magic spell to weave. I'll be making dreams come true with every little thing I do. Now I know what I can do. Now I see what I can do. Now I know, now I see. There's magic written all over me. The magic words are on my lips. The magic's at my fingertips. Now I know, now I see. Making magic is up to me. Oh, what a little magic can do. It only takes a moment or two. In the twinkling of an eye, a touch of magic multiplies. Now I know what I can do. Now I see what I can do. Now I know, now I see. There's magic written all over me. The magic words are on my lips. The magic's at my fingertips. Now I know, now I see. Making magic is up to me.
That's my
can do. Now I know, now I know, now I see. There's magic written all over me. Look,
There it is.
I can see it.
Now I see it.
I can do it. Magic's written all over me. Making magic is where I'll be. Making magic is where I'll be.
All right. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I hope we don't get sued. It's so fun to see that after so many years, and obviously the hairstyles and the some of the stuff looks really dated in that, but oh my gosh, almost nobody was wearing a mask or social distancing.
You're correct. You're
Wow.
correct.
But
Yeah, little things. Talk about the happiness. What did you see there about all the employees,
so
cast members, if you will?
it's rare to see a video, or it's rare to ever be shown cast members behind the scenes, right behind backstage. And so to be able to see that, and everybody was happy, everybody was joking around, and there were lots of shots of, my favorite thing to do, we've talked about this before, was those cross utilizations where we get to go out to the park and interact with the guests, and how happy employees make happy guests.
Right. And there's so much in that video from an emotional point of view, from the song. And the reason I wanted to show it is I wanted to encourage all the leaders who are out there who have new hire orientation or first day orientation. How are you sending your people out with a bang? How are you reminding them that they made the right choice to work for your company? How are you telling them that, yes, there were jobs that you chose and this is the right one? So again, not every day is going to be like that. Not every day is going to be happy and all of that. But for the most part, Brian, we just learned in our traditions class that we create happiness every day. And now we're seeing it firsthand with all these employees who are out there. It really did a good job of making people. And again, that retention rate is so important in organizations today, because people will show up for the first day of the job and go through that and then never come back. They'll just ghost the organization and go, this is not what I thought it was. This is not what I expected. So what Disney tries to do again is to ensconce you with this idea that this is what it's going to be like. So that's a lot of pressure on the managers and supervisors to create a job environment that's always so happy.
We talk about the cultural adjustment cycle, right? And
you're right.
And
you're right.
Start up here, and then your first, you feel like, man, but if you don't start up here,
right,
if you start down here, it's gonna
right
drop.
and just
so you absolutely have to get your employees to feel like they made the right decision by starting with your company.
And one more thing that I love about that particular training video is Disney was doing diversity and inclusion way before you had to do diversity and inclusion. Okay. That was not a white male or white female. I mean, the amount of diversity just in age, race, gender, job, skin color, national origin, everything was already in there back in the late 80s and early 90s when we were doing this. So again, that's a nice representation that Disney has always been pretty much ahead of the curve when it comes to diversity and inclusion methods, and showing people that people they're going to be working with look like who they are. It's fantastic.
Even different species. There was mice.
There were ducks. There was everything you had in there. So anyhow, that's our takeaway for the Daily Disney today. Is your takeaway lesson is, and again, video is so powerful. Music is so powerful. Find a way to not end your new high orientation with, all right, so we covered legal. We covered vacation days. We covered policy. Any questions before we go for the day? Okay, y'all, head out to your areas and good luck. That's no now again, Disney's going to take it to the nth degree, but do what you can. Do what you can to make that first day of orientation awesome.
Disney takes the nth degree, but there's a reason why so many people come to Disney to, figure out how they're doing it. How are they being so successful?
Right.
And, it's because they take it to the nth degree.
Yep. Small little investments like that, buddy. Let me press this button here and see what happens. What does that mean?
It means I'm going to hit you with a did you know, and then we're going to get out of here.
Did you know? Coming up. It's been a fun show tonight. What do you got for a did you know?
Well,
hold on. I think that was the $25,000 pyramid. I apologize. Go ahead. Did you know what theme song, what TV show that was?
Now you can guess. You can chat it in. So earlier we said that 40% of employees surveyed said that they have experienced burnout, work burnout, specifically during this pandemic. And did you know? This is really not surprising, given that 37% of employees also say they are currently working longer hours than usual since the pandemic started.
37% have said they were. I would have taken the over on that as well. I would have thought it would have been a lot higher than that. So, all right, we covered some good stories. We talked about dogs, pets, animals, kidneys,
happiness.
We talked about happiness. We talked about new high orientation. We gave you some tips on dealing with the pandemic, some Disney behind the scenes information.
You got 3 bells in a row today. I'm proud.
Got 3 bells on over and under. It was awesome, buddy. So thank you all for spending an hour with us. Please let your friends know every Wednesday night. We're doing this on LinkedIn and Facebook, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. And if you're not careful, again, we're just going to blow every single trademark violation here that we possibly can. Here we go. You know what? I'm stopping the music. Hey, it's been fun, everybody. From Birmingham, my name is Pete Blank.
From Denver, Colorado, my name is Brian. We want to tell everybody to put some more kindness in the world, and we love you guys.
Absolutely. Be kind, be happy, and like Russ says, make it a great week. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.